You're listening to Unlocked, Your Career by Design with Samantha Florence, Fortune 100 executive, billion-dollar business leader, and founder of Powerhouse Code. Here, you'll discover how to build authority, attract opportunities, and lead with authentic presence. If you're ready to claim your spotlight and step into your next level, you're in the right place. Let's unlock your career by design. Today, I want to touch upon something that is not often talked about. The gap between your executive leadership team and yourself. And why am I inspired to talk about it? So last month, I worked closely with two CEOs. One was a CEO, one was a partner, and they felt like their team, their leadership team and professionals just didn't get it. What I heard from them is our team is not strategic enough. They're not commercial enough. They don't have that burning passion to achieve more. Now, let's sit with this for a moment, right? Because if you're listening to this episode, you're probably in a leadership team or you're a professional that works so hard. Is that you, the one that works late, feel that you're not spending enough time with your friends and family, constantly tired, exhausted because you're doing so much? And here your CEO and partner are saying that you're not strategic enough, you're not commercial enough, and they just don't see how you will be able to succeed them. Oh my God, right? But you will be surprised how many times I hear that. It's as if executives and a leadership team are speaking a very different language than professionals. It's unbelievable. And I have not worked with any leadership teams, any executives that have said otherwise. And so what you think is important, what you think is necessary to make a difference is often not what your leaders think is important or your leaders think are necessary to make a difference. And that's why you might have the feeling that only a certain specific type of person moves ahead. Nothing is less true. You guys and girls, I cannot stress this enough. There is so much potential for you and your career, OMG. And so many people are going outside, they're applying, they want to move because they feel stuck in their career. I cannot tell you how many opportunities there are internally. So many. But you might have the feeling that you've done everything possible. You've worked the hardest you can. You've given everything. You have nothing more to give and you're stuck and you're not progressing. Why is that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, how many times do I say it? What got you here will not get you there. Let me give you an example. Michael Jordan, I give this example so many times. Imagine Michael Jordan, a basketball player in high school. How many people are basketball players in high school? Many people can be a basketball player in high school. All of a sudden, he's a professional basketball player in college, at university. How many people can be a professional basketball player in college? Not many. It gets less and less. Now, Michael Jordan is drafted to the NBA. How many people make it to the NBA? Not a lot. Not a lot. What is the difference of somebody who makes the NBA and somebody that plays basketball in college? Now, you will probably say it's the talent. Michael Jordan was the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Is it only the talent, though? Is it really? Or did Michael Jordan understand what is necessary to become an NBA player? And we're going to keep it on the Michael Jordan example because all of a sudden, during his career, Michael Jordan didn't want to play basketball anymore. He wanted to move to baseball. So hold on a second. He spent his life playing basketball and then all of a sudden he moves to baseball. How does he become successful at baseball? He has to play a different game because baseball is a different game. See what I'm getting at? As you progress from high school to college to university and you want to sidestep into baseball, and again, this is an example, this is a metaphor, but I need you to get a point here. Every level requires something different of you. In high school, many people can play basketball. Okay, fine. Then in college, how many people get a full scholarship? Not many. Then how many people get to drafted for NBA? Not many. But if you want to be drafted for the NBA, then you better not be playing like you're in high school because the NBA is a different league. It's a different ball game, literally different ball game. And so as you relate that to your career, if you are giving your best, giving it your all, praying harder, 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 you're not in high school. You're going to the NBAs. First of all, to get drafted to the NBA, people need to know who you are. Are you visible to the decision makers? The one that drafts the key players for the NBA? Because it's all a game, people. It's all a game at the end of the day. So if you look at your company, your employer, the decision makers who are drafting for the NBA, with drafting being the promotions, do they know who you are? Or are you just heads down in the work, delivering on every deadline, making sure it's 120% instead of 85, and not being seen, not having the ability to be drafted because your name is not even on the list, right? And so when I talk about the gap is the biggest opportunity. Every gap is an opportunity. So think about it. I work with CEOs and executives on a regular, and they all say talent is the hardest resource to find. What? What? Why are there so many? What? Exactly. So just pause, zoom out, look at the bigger picture. Why is that? Because they're drafting for the NBA and you're playing high school. It's not the same. So imagine if you start doubling down on that gap. What is it that's needed to be considered for the big game, to be considered for your company's version of the NBA? What are they looking for? Are they looking for a strategic profile? Are they looking for a commercial profile? Are they looking for people who can take their company to the next level? If they're looking to cut costs, are you asking for headcount every chance you get? Because that means that you don't get a strategy. And if you don't get a strategy, you're probably not somebody they want to draft for the NBA. And so it comes down to doubling down on that gap. What do your decision makers need? What do your senior leaders need? And then translate it back to what are you doing today? And how are you adding value to whatever is important to your senior leaders and your decision makers? Because at Powerhouse Code, we don't just focus on landing the role, being more visible. There's tons of career coaches doing that, right? This is about building a lifelong equity in your career. Like I mentioned in the previous episode, it's adding dollars every month to your career bank, basically. Making you a leader, positioning you as a strategic leader instead of a professional, instead of an employee, instead of a number on payroll. And if that's what you want, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But then this is not a podcast for you to listen to. This is the podcast that prepares you for those enterprise rooms where big decisions are taken. So let's go back to the gap. Can you tell me, if I were to wake you up in the middle of the night and I say, hey, what are your company's 3 biggest priorities? Would you be able to tell me on the top of your head? Because that's where it starts. That's where the gap starts. So what is the gap? What is the gap in your company? What is the gap that your decision makers have identified? Do they want a strategic leadership team, whereas the current leadership team is very operational? Do they want their team to be more commercial instead of focused only on knowledge? What is the gap? What is the gap of what your CEO, your leadership team wants versus what's the current reality. Because, like I said, that is the fountain of opportunities. When you identify the gap, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stress it enough. The opportunities are endless because that's when you can start positioning yourself as one person, one talent who bridges that gap. Because we are in the business of solving problems. We are not in the business of working hard. We are not in the business of keeping our heads down. No, you are a professional. You are the CEO of your career, and you need to see yourself as I talk about this a lot as well. Having that executive mindset. I'm coming in, I'm a business partner, I help you solve problems. Not here to do my job. That's something on paper. That's something that HR needs, right? Same as a performance review. I can go days talking about a performance review. Are you actively helping to close the gap? Are you actively solving problems? Are you actively positioning yourself for that future you want? Those are the only things you need to answer. And if you're doing that, you're on track. You're doing great. If you're not doing that, are you stuck in the employee mindset? Are you stuck on doing your job? And if that's the case, is there something that is holding you back? Is there a reason that you're so focused on your job instead of focused on adding value, instead of focused on closing the gap, instead of being focused on solving problems? That's it. And I get it. Our school system teaches us that you need to work hard. Our education system is like a modern day machine for preparing factory workers. Only is that we don't have blue collar jobs anymore. We have white collar jobs. But ultimately, can you imagine if you were to be the CEO of your company? Would you want to have worker bees that focus on a job description while not being connected to the strategic priorities? Or would you want professionals that act like business partners, that have an executive mindset, that understand their role in the bigger picture, that understand they're here to add value? Your call. I know the answer because I work with executives day in and day out. And honestly, there's so much opportunity once you understand the gap that is currently in your organization and you are part of solving that gap because talent is scarce. Yes, it might seem that it's not very scarce if you're currently applying for roles, you're not getting interviews, etc., etc. That's a whole different conversation. But if you're in your company, there are so many opportunities. OMG. The thing is, you have to start thinking outside of your box, right? Your box that is currently your job description, that is your current deliverables. No. How do you add value to the company? How does this role that you have, the job title, position, description that you have on paper, how does it play a bigger role in the bigger picture? Completely different thing. And so the name of the game is positioning. While you might be focused on doing the job, hitting the deadlines. Oh my God, this needs to be perfect. I'm going to double check it. I'm going to check who else is in copy. Yada, 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 yada. You don't have time for that. You just don't. What if only 10% of your time you shift to what problem am I solving this week? How am I contributing to the strategic priorities? How am I building a relationship with the decision makers? How am I closing the gap? Very different questions versus is my deck like a 10 out of 10 or 8.5 out of 10? It's not the same. Okay? So, the encouragement of the week: understand the gap that your current leadership team, your current decision makers are facing. Not your manager. Build your relationship broader than your manager. What are they currently facing? What are they currently struggling with? And then how do you start building the bridge? I had one CEO last week. She said, Sam, I have a leadership team of 13 and none of them are strategic. They're constantly in the tactical and operational. We're not getting ahead. We have like an 80-page strategy deck, but we don't ever talk strategy. We're constantly firefighting. We're constantly in crisis management. They don't even elevate to strategy. And the gap between me and them is so big, I don't feel supported by my 13-person leadership. Can you imagine? She has 13 people in the leadership reporting to her, and she feels like she's doing it all alone because they're not strategic. Or they might be strategic, but I might be focusing on the tactical, operational, ad hoc, urgent things because that's what I think is important at the moment. Whereas the CEO is like, I don't care about all those things. I care about the strategy. Are you progressing the strategy? Are you seeing the bigger picture? Are you thinking of the consequences of tomorrow? Yet here, her leadership team is constantly fighting. That's one example. Another CEO, he was actually a partner. He was the managing partner of his practice. Said, Sam, I have a fantastic team. We grew by 15% last year. Clients are coming to us. It's a luxury problem to have, but my people are not commercial. That 15% could be 30% growth, but they're not focused on the commerce. They're focused on knowledge building, expanding their expertise, et cetera, whereas I need them to be commercial because I want to fix the roof when it's not raining. So I'm working with both CEOs to elevate, funnily enough, I use the word elevate their leadership teams, right? Making them more strategic and making them more commercial. At the end of the day, this opportunity is here for you as well. You don't need a CEO or a managing partner to do it all for you, to say, okay, now I need my team to be strategic. Now I need my team to be commercial. Because when you're proactive, you go out and find out what do they need. Oh man, the opportunities start rolling in. What does this team need beyond a job description? It's never about the job description. Never ever. The job description is a formality. Even in interviews, go beyond the job description. What is really the problem? What is really the profile they need? You're a business partner. You're a consultant. You have an executive mindset. Don't go in, oh, this is the job description. I'm going to prepare all my examples based on this job description and I'm going to sell myself. You lost them. Okay? So mind the gap. One conversation this week. What are your CEOs, decision makers, leadership teams struggling with? What do they need the most right now? Not your manager, somebody above your manager. That's your goal for the week. And I love hearing questions that are coming from listeners. So when you have a question, when you want me to discuss anything, let me know, DM, LinkedIn, or Instagram, and I will treat it on the show because this is about giving you those mindset nudges to make you see, make you realize how much opportunity there is out there for you to tap into instead of staying on the defense. Okay? Imagine you succeeding by not having to work harder, by not having to apply for more roles, by not having to sell yourself in interviews. It's possible. I see it every single day. Talent is scarce. Okay? It might not seem that way, but it is. So when you start tapping into potential, let's go. Everything becomes possible for you. See you in the next one. You have been listening to Unlocked, Your Career by Design with Samantha Flores. If today's episode sparked something, here's your next step. Follow the show and leave a 5-star review. That's how we reach more ambitious women ready to break barriers. And if you know a colleague or friend who needs this, share it with them because lifting one woman lifts us all. Until next week, keep owning your spotlights.